The MTD Podcast, sponsored by Langley Alloys, unique metals for demanding applications, providing first-class performance and an international service.
Welcome to the MTD Podcast. I'm Giovanni, Albanese, hosting today's show, a passionate engineer and a proud member of the MTD team. In today's episode, we've got a real treat lined up. We're joined by the guys from First MTA discussing chick workholding, a workholding solution so versatile it lends itself to all applications. And there's some real benefits that we're going to be discussing today that for any engineer out there watching or listening to this podcast, you need to find out about. Guys, thank you very much for joining me and us in the MTD studio today. I can't wait to deep dive into this workholding solution. Obviously, I've got some experience of it myself from the past, so I'm really looking forward to get your 2 cents on it and how you are currently using it out in the field and to kind of get a bit of an idea of some of the applications you're using it for. Before we really deep dive into the product portfolio, and it's a large product portfolio, I just want to kind of talk about your backgrounds. Tim, this is the first time that you've joined us on the MTD podcast, so thank you very much for joining us. Can you firstly give us a little bit of an insight into your background and why you got into engineering?
First of all, thanks for having us. At a young age, started a family early and got sort of directed towards engineering as a career because I wasn't sure what to do with myself. Was going from job to job, so then I got directed towards this and found a passion, started to enjoy what I was doing each day and just sort of gone from there and grown my career to where I am today.
And what's your role at First MTA?
I'm technical manager there.
Brilliant.
Sort of behind the scenes, sorting things out, getting problem solving with technical products and service and support.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. Lee, it's been a pleasure to meet you this week. We've done some technical corners on products and it's been great to meet. It's the first time I've met you physically with all these Zoom calls that we all do nowadays. Lee, give our audience a little bit of an insight about you, your role at First MTA.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. I've had a lot of fun this week, and it's just been an experience for me. So my role at First MTA is I'm the Northern Technical Sales Engineer. So I'm on the road, going to visit customers and sort of looking at how I can help them with solutions. I started out as a labourer, and I was not doing what I was supposed to be doing. I was stood about watching machinists, and I had a real interest in machining from starting out. The managing director at the company I was at said, would I like to do an apprenticeship? And the rest is history. I spent 20 years on the shop floor doing programming, setting, and that's lathes, mills, mill turns, and just having a lot of fun. And then last year, took the step into technical sales.
Fantastic story, great story. I love them kind of stories. I think there's opportunities for everyone in our industry, and that's what makes it so great. Richard, I've known you for many years. We used to work together back in the day, but I've not seen you for a long time. So, firstly, I want you to tell our audience who you are, what you do, or what you did, and what you're doing now. And then I want to kind of ask you about what you've been doing.
Well, it's really good to see you, Gio. As you said, it has been a while. I'm fortunate. I've had a pretty good education in engineering on the shop floor. I also started, as most people did, at the bottom and worked my way up through various different roles in the machine shop up to the level of production manager. In a few different industries, including sort of aerospace, motorsports, mining and minerals, and the rail industry. And then for the last few years, I've been at First MTA as technical sales and enjoying it very, very much.
And your roles changed significantly over the years. You're getting involved. I mean, you can't you can't keep away from engineering. You've got machine tools in your kitchen.
Well, not quite in the kitchen, but yeah, I do have a little machine shop at home. I have CNC machines for my various little projects. So
But you don't just have them; you build them too.
well, I have built a couple of machines. That's true. Even built a 4th axis.
I mean, that's very impressive. Not many people can say that they've done that, can they?
Well, I don't know. There are a few other people out there, I suppose.
No, brilliant to see you again,
And you, Joe,
Rich.
yeah.
And you've got a lot of experience and expertise in the chick workholding system 5, quick locks, multi-locks, and we'll explain the terminology of each during this podcast. Now, when I used to work with chick, I used to think that chick workholding was a product ahead of its time. And I think to a certain degree it still is. And it's really coming into play now with how companies need to become more efficient, need to present more components to the spindle, need to reduce setup times. How does chick workholding, give an engineer all of these many benefits? Rich, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Well, the thing about Chick is they're a company that make all their own products. And they have, obviously, in-house CNC machining, and they use Chick on all of their own machines. So it's over the years, it's been refined by being used. They've learned a lot of lessons, and they've managed to. This is the 5th generation of the workholding system, and it's been refined over the years to solve a lot of the sort of problems that people have in terms of productivity in the machine shop. A few of those problems being things like long setup times, long loading times that are in cycle, the inability to clamp a lot of components in a single workholding system to present more parts to the spindle to therefore make for more efficient tool paths. And these are all the sorts of problems that people encounter every single day in machine shops that the Chick system has been designed to improve on.
And that's a great explanation, so thank you for that. And I think that, and we'll deep dive into this further, especially for people watching this podcast and not just listening to it. We'll explain how the system works, because I think that just looking at the system, people don't fully understand or appreciate its many qualities and the versatility. So we'll explain the different components that can be held within the system and how it can be transformed from a single station workholding solution to a dual station to a 0-point pallet changer to be used for bespoke applications and special applications too. Tim, you're the technical manager, and I'm going to start with you really and maybe work back to front. Bespoke applications, projects. How can Chick be used for project work?
Well, in the office at 1MTA, we will regularly sort of take a selection of parts from a customer. We will look at it on a Chick faceplate or the dual station, and we would sort of tailor a solution using other work holding fixturing to make a setup for the customer individually, so they can utilise as much space and products through during their production run, giving them more time sort of machine running so they can step away from the machine and free up that time for doing other processes.
I think it is all about efficiency with Chick, isn't it? Now, Lee, I want you to really, and I'm giving you the hardest question really, because for people just listening to this podcast, it's going to be quite difficult. Can you explain, what, because people listening to just terminology, quick lock, multi-lock, foundation plate, they might not know, or if they're not used Chick before, they won't know what we're talking about. So could you explain the system, please, in layman terms, from the ground up, please, from the foundation plate to the quick lock, single station, dual station, high jaws, wide jaws, so on and so forth?
Okay. So starting at the very base, you've got the Chick foundation. The easiest way to describe it is as a matrix table. It's pitched at 50 millimeter pitch. It has a hardened and ground bush that's inserted, so if you are doing fixturing straight onto your foundation, you can locate dowels into there. And there is also the thread below for bolting your base onto it. Next, you've got the base of the unit itself.
The quick lock.
The quick lock, yeah. So that's the single station version. There is also the multi-lock. We'll get to that in a little bit. But the quick lock base is very straightforward. It's a hollow unit with a slide assembly inserted into it, a cover plate on top of that, and then your jaws locate up on top of the cover plate.
Now, when you talk about the jaws, when you go and talk to someone about a traditional 1960s vice, they just assume it's just a vice, but it's a lot more than that, isn't it? So when we talk about the jaws, as standard, it'll come with a dual station jaw set. So you'll have a fixed jaw in the middle, 2 moving jaws, which enables you to do 2 components at once, maybe OT1 and OT2. But then you can remove all jaws and increase capacity, so you can do 1 large component, or you can remove all of the jaws and then replace it with a 0-point faceplate, which gives you 0-point palletization options. Yes, Lee. Yeah. Okay.
So that is right. Obviously, your centre jaw is your fixed jaw on this system. It's located onto the unit with a round and diamond underneath into a sprung-loaded sort of section to stop over-constraint and twisting of the jaw. Your 2 outside jaws are just snap on and snap off by a hook and ball bearings. Now, the relocation on any of these jaws is better than 20 microns, which means that you can take a jaw or the full setup apart, put it on the shelf, come back to it next week. So long as your base plate hasn't moved, that datum hasn't moved, it's going to be set exactly where it was the last time you set it up.
Now, and I suppose if you've got your round and diamond pin sets on the foundation plate as well, you could actually remove the bases as well from the quick lock as well.
Yeah, that's right. And also what we haven't really mentioned, the jaws are all machinable.
Yeah.
So you can machine that into any shape, size, or any locators or grippers that you want putting in. Everything can be customized to exactly the way that you want it.
Perfect for irregular shape work or second op work. Now, Rich, the quick lock is kind of the start really for 3-axis machine tool, but this really lends itself to adjacent side milling in the form of an ISS that you can also introduce to a 3-axis machine tool, which then enables you to have the adjacent, all of the benefits that we've just discussed per face. But on top of that, you also now can start achieving adjacent side milling.
Exactly. The quick lock is really intended for opposite side milling, so your vertical machining centers. If you want to do adjacent side milling machine, which is sort of where you're rotating the workpiece 90 degrees at a time, then the ISS, which is effectively a tombstone with the quick lock system built into it, that you can then fit to a 4th axis, which will give you very much like the horizontal machining system milling sort of benefits, but with a vertical machining center. So you kind of turn your vertical machining center into a horizontal machining center. And the same system can also be mounted in a horizontal machining center on a tombstone. So you get all of those benefits, but you still have the benefits of the quick change jaws, the fact that they're machinable, which allows you to clamp awkward shaped workpieces without needing fixturing, as well as the fact that you can fit single or dual station jaws, as well as the faceplate, which is basically a base for a fixture. And you can swap between them very, very quickly and very precisely. And one of the key elements of the quick lock system is it makes your setups really quick because your jaws locate accurately. So you prepare a set of jaws for the job. When you've taken those jaws off, when you finish that job, the next time you do that job, you just snap those jaws back into place and you can carry on again with your datum preserved from when you last did that job. Your process is still qualified. Your program is all proven out. You're eliminating a proving out process where you're constantly checking dimensions to make adjustments because you're carrying on that job almost as if you'd never stopped doing it. So it saves a hell of a lot of time.
And time is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
And what I love as well, it's so interchangeable. So then if you add bases, then jaws could go on any quick lock on any machine, be transferred from a 3-axis, a 4th axis, a 5th axis. It is so flexible and so modular. Now, with the ISS, we're now presenting. So, for example, let's go back for a minute to the quick lock on a 3-axis machine mounted to the bed. It's really for 2-op work. What you're saying, profiling, drilling. You can only hit the component from the Z effectively. But now you're introducing the ISS onto a 3-axis machine. I wanted to stop you during that, but it was just so good what you were saying, because what you're saying now is that now you're presenting 8 components to the spindle if you add it in a dual station configuration. Correct. But you're now hitting 3 sides of each one of them components. Sides. So effectively, you could be having 4 components coming off your machine, complete 6-sided work. It's a game changer, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's one of the things I love about that is because you have it on the 4th axis, all of the relationships between the machining on the different sides is extremely well maintained. All of those relationships are very, very precise. So it's a way that you can make a quality improvement as well, on top of the productivity benefits.
Game changer. I mean, for a very small investment, you're getting a return of investment instantaneously if you add the right word. Lee?
So one thing that I just wanted to add as well, what you can also do is if you are doing, let's say, op 1 on 2 of the sides, you're now reducing your tool changes.
Exactly.
Because you can use the
chip
tool.
To chip time.
Yeah, rotate it, use the same tool again on your other side before it has to change. If you're doing all 4 sides, you're now getting 8, 10, 12 components before you have to do a tool change. And over the course of all of your operations, that tool change time is really going to start to add up and save you a lot of time.
I think already we can start to see time saving, efficiency, reducing setup times. There's just so many points that we're touching upon here. Now, one thing we haven't yet talked about, and I'm kind of digressing a little bit, but I'm going to go back to you, Tim. At Chick Workholding in Pittsburgh, they are really practicing what they preached, like what you've just told us, really, Richard. Tim, tell us a little bit about the company and their philosophy.
Yeah, it's a family-run company. It started off with the father, now being run by Paul Swan, who's the president of Chick at the moment. He's of the 2nd generation. And yeah, they sort of, as Richard said earlier, they make Chick on the machines using Chick. So they know the product, how it works, and they're constantly pushing and driving the product to make it better and improve it.
Can you tell us, are there any new products set to be launched yet?
They're always working on new stuff. I mean, there may be new stuff coming through soon, but we have to wait and see until it's released.
For putting you on the spot there. So hopefully new products from Chick coming soon, and you've heard it first on MTD. Richard, we're talking about ISSs now. Let's move on to the horizontal machines. Now, in America, where this system was designed, horizontal machining is probably the most popular form of machining any component, way more popular than 5th-axis machines, like, in comparison to the UK. Lee, tell us about the tombstones, a different configuration of tombstones, dependent on the pallet sizes of each machine tool.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a big part of it, is how big do you want it to go? I mean, they do the baby Chick tombstone or ISS system, and that goes all the way up to the 1550, which is a jaw system that's 150 mil wide with a 500 mil reach. So it really depends on what you're trying to achieve. Now, the unit itself differs from ordinary tombstones because normally you would be bolting your workholding onto a tombstone, which is adding a layer. The multi-lock tombstone is a solid unit with the jaws and the slide assemblies being fitted directly into the unit itself. So it's a lot more rigid, it's robust, and it's going to help dampen vibrations and still give you that quick, accurate setup.
It's utilising the actual space and the envelope as well, with having it all built into it, isn't it?
That's right,
so you can get bigger components within the working envelope of the machine tool. Richard, you've had a lot of experience in kind of applications using multi-locks on horizontal machine tools. What are the major benefits?
Well, the keys, I think, with the multi-lock are the versatility, because you have one work-holding product that can clamp a single large component or two sort of medium-sized components, or a fixture with a lot of small components on. So you have one work-holding solution that covers that whole range. And then another benefit, obviously, the fast setups. Instead of having to store fixtured tombstones, which are quite large, heavy devices to be moving around the machine shop and finding places for them to live, instead of having to remove that from the machine, you're simply removing the jaws or the faceplate from the multi-lock, and then they're much easier to store and much quicker to fit. And then on top of that, the fact that it's based on this machinable jaw system means that very often you can eliminate the need for a dedicated fixture. It's a simple case of machining a set of jaws to suit the job, and then you can clamp any kind of awkward shaped workpieces. And none of this takes away from the fact that on your horizontal machine, you've got very good access to your workpiece. You can hit it from at least 3 faces. So you still get all your horizontal machine benefits, as well as all of these other benefits.
And can you put faceplates onto the horizontal configuration?
Yeah, you can
too? You could fixture them up as well.
Exactly.
And like with the point you just made, a really valid point. Instead of taking the old tombstone off for that bespoke fixture, you just take the faceplate off.
Exactly. You just take the faceplate off. It's much easier to store, and it's much lighter, so you don't need specialist equipment to lift it onto the machine. So it really does save a lot of time and energy in quite a few different areas.
A lot of areas, a hell of a lot of areas. And going back to the bespoke project work, Tim, is this an area where you can see, or is this an area where a lot of project work is done on the horizontal machines?
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of different projects working for different customers. It's sort of working out what best suits their needs and their requirements, and trying to get as many products as we can onto the work holding. The faceplate's ideal for sort of smaller parts. You can fit quite a few on there. And then obviously you can then go bigger and fit in larger parts if you need to on the different sort of settings.
So it really does lend itself to project work, bespoke applications, standard applications, high volume work, low volume work. And I think that's another point, really. I think that even if you were doing lower volume work, it still really does lend itself to that too, because you can just quickly replace the jaws or the faceplates.
Exactly. One of the key things with the quick lock is that it takes up a similar amount of space on your machine table as a conventional traditional vise would use, except you're clamping 2 workpieces in the same space where you'd normally clamp 1. So even from the get-go, you've got this added benefit of presenting more parts to the spindle than you would normally have in a traditional vise. And so even if you're doing a relatively short batch run, you're still getting that benefit of that increase in productivity.
Absolutely. And Lee, how long have you been familiar with Chick? Were you familiar with Chick prior to joining First MTA?
I was, but not the System 5. And I just think since I've seen it and I've been into places that actually live on it, all of their work holding is built around System 5.
So this is a good segue into my next question. Actually, the companies that are living on Chick or have heavily invested in Chick, give us some real life application examples of how it's transformed their business.
So I have to be very careful. Obviously, I can't name companies, but they have gone from using conventional work holding. They've got into Chick. They're now using it on pallet change machines. They're using it on verticals, horizontals. And what they do is they actually just have stores of their work holding that they can swap between any machine. So if one machine goes down or they lose capacity on a machine for whatever reason, they can take a job and put it on another machine without any sort of issue, because all the programs are still going to marry up. The datums will be different, but it's not a massive job like it would have been to swap in the first instance.
So the advantages of using chick compound as you keep investing in chick, because it just gives you more and more benefits as you invest in chick. Richard, what's the very best solution that you've ever provided with chick to an end user?
That's a good question, Gio. I think I have one customer who uses exclusively multi-locks on their horizontal machines for the very reasons I outlined earlier, because instead of having to move fixtures around, they're just simply moving jaws around. But I think my favorite application really is the way it can revolutionize 5-axis machining, because we do have some very small multi-locks that go very well with some of the pallet changing 5-axis machines. And then instead of using something like a centric vise where you're clamping a single workpiece, you could have one of our little baby multi-locks clamping 8 workpieces to present 8 parts to the spindle. And on a 5-axis pallet changing machine, you can load a few pallets up and you can walk away from that machine for almost an entire shift while it'll just carry on being productive. And you get very efficient tool parts, because you've got every tool change is spread over 8 components instead of just one. So, the sky's really the limit.
Well, that's a massive, massive advantage, isn't it? Because, how many 5th-axis machines do you see where they're not, the machine envelope is not being fully utilised?
Exactly.
There's so much fresh air in that envelope that needs to be filled up.
Exactly.
So if you can present more components in there, it's like effectively, it's like having eight 5th-axis machine tools in your workshop instead of one, by introducing a chick multi-lock.
Exactly. In my experience, has been a bit of an overlooked area.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I would completely agree with you on that. And I think and that is all down to education, isn't it?
Exactly. That's why 1MTA, they employ people with shop floor experience who can go into a company and have a chat with the guys who do the machining about what they're doing and how they want to make improvements, and can make some real suggestions that actually will change people's lives for the better and will make productivity improvements on the shop floor.
Well, with that point, Tim, it'd be great for us to go and do a case study on a 5th-axis machine with a multi-lock on it, that we can actually show the engineers a solution like this in action, because I think that is a game-changing solution really for 5th-axis machine tools.
Yeah, I agree totally, yeah.
Let's get that on the go. Lee, what do you think about that? And what is the best application that you've seen?
So the best application that I've seen is on the ISS rather than horizontal. And he was actually using 2 faces for holding his work whilst he was machining, and using the other 2 faces as a support for I have to again yeah, it was being used for a different application other than machining, and it was just so interesting to see how he'd sort of achieved what he'd done, and to me that was just the most interesting application. One thing that I feel like it hasn't come up, and I would like to sort of say about, is the maintenance of the system. So when you're talking about tombstones or multi-locks or even the quick lock system, when your unit is on your machine for a period of time of a different, it's very hard to maintain. But with the chick, it can be stripped down to bare bones. Everything can be cleaned and rebuilt in under 2 minutes.
It's a really, really good point. And I think also we've not mentioned also that there's no swarf issues with this. There's no swarf traps. And I think that again, when you go into a machine, that is an absolute nightmare when you've got these swarf traps. It takes time to clear the machine out, reset the machine, and corrosion as well. How the system has been designed, it just does not corrode. Really, really good points. And again, saving time and money.
And your nostrils. You blow it out, you get that nose full of coolant and chips. You don't have that.
Really, really good point. On that note, and I could talk for a lot longer about this system and some of the applications that I've seen myself personally out in the field. But are there any last points that you want to raise before we bring this podcast to an end? Tim, I'm going to start with you.
No, to be honest, I think we've covered a lot of the key bits of information.
No, brilliant. Mate, it's great to have had you on the podcast, Tim. First time ever. Hopefully you'll join us again in the future.
We'll see.
We'll be coming down and doing a lot more case studies with First MTA over the coming months. So really looking forward to that. Lee, as I mentioned, previously, been great to meet you personally for the first time, and hopefully we've got some potential case studies lined up around the UK in the coming months, which I'm looking forward to kind of attend with you.
I'm looking forward to it too. I think there is definitely a lot that we can do with this, and just raising awareness of it, I think, is really important, because people need to know that this is available to them.
And what it can do, I think, is the main thing, how it can help them. Any last points you want to raise, Lee?
Yeah, I mean, I think you already briefly touched on it earlier, but the ability to have a set of jaws or a faceplate on your quick lock, that if something happens to that machine, you can then take that onto another, put it on a multi-lock. It doesn't matter, they're all interchangeable. So long as you've got the same size, it can go in amongst any machine that you want it to.
Yeah, I mean, you can really fully utilise your machine envelope. You really can maximise production on the machines that you've got. And improve efficiency. That's for sure. And I think that, for any engineer watching this, surely that's exactly what they want to do. They want to make more money, want to be more efficient, more productive, and be more competitive, not just in the UK but globally. And Chick enables you to do that. Richard, thank you very much for joining us today. I know you've had a long drive this morning.
That's okay, I don't mind.
From Huddersfield?
No, from Chorley, Lancashire.
Lancashire, wow. How long did it take you up to?
Only 3 hours.
3 hours? That's not too bad. It's not too bad. I was feeling sorry for you for a minute then. But thanks for taking the drive down to meet us today. Rich, it's been a long time since I've seen you. Any last points that you want to raise?
I have a question for you, Giovanni.
Oh, God.
Do you remember when we first met?
Yes.
Do you remember? That was the first time I ever saw the quick lock.
Yes, I interviewed you. I interviewed you.
Exactly. Do you remember at the time? When after we'd done the interview and we'd looked at the quick lock for the first time, I said to you, "I'd have one of those at home." Do you remember me saying that?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, well, I do now.
Well, you are an engineering geek. In your kitchen?
No, it's in the garage.
Is it on your machine tool?
Mm. Yeah, it's on my milling machine, so
fantastic.
And I make good use of it.
And I'm sure, knowing you will find different solutions for Chick.
Absolutely.
I can see it. And guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been great to see you all today. So there you have it, the MTD podcast with First MTA discussing Chick workholding solutions, available for 3-axis machines, 4-axis machines, horizontal machines, 5th-axis machines, and it's been designed to improve your productivity, efficiency, reduce setup times, and effectively make you more profitable. So get in touch with the guys from First MTA to find out more and to find out how they could potentially make your processes more profitable by introducing Chick workholding solutions. Thank you very much for viewing the MTD podcast, and until next week, the MTD podcast. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the MTDCNC podcast, sponsored by Langley Alloys, specialists in a wide range of exotic materials for any application for all your engineering needs.